Entrepreneur Nation here on KUCI 88.9 FM. Every week, as you know, we feature amazing stories, entrepreneurs, innovators, and creators who are doing great things. And this episode is all about comedy. Now, I've talked about comedy a lot in some past episodes, and some of you even know that outside of this show, I'm working on a comedy podcast. And I thought, you know what? I wanted to talk to someone who can talk not only about why comedy is up and up, I should say it's never not been up and up, but even more so up and up, but also the business side of it. And so I have my friend Ahmed Ahmed, and he has a really impressive background. Some of you might know him because he actually did a cool documentary where he and various people had gone to the Middle East to do this performance. And he's performed all around the world. Just even before this interview, I heard this interview the stand-up that he did when he was in DC, and he was just like, kind of elevating people. And he's a really cool cat. He really brings a unique flair. And most recently, as of this interview date, a few days back, I had the pleasure of going to one of his shows that had himself and the legend Bill Burr. And he has a series of other events, which we'll talk about. So this is going to be a really cool conversation. And I really hope that, we can learn more about whether you want to be a comedian, whether you want to get in the comedy business, or you're just a creator and you want to just see how you can take advantage of this, post-pandemic kind of content phobia that we all have. So, Ahmed, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, thank you, brother. Thank you for making time.
No worries. So let's talk about young Ahmed, or whatever you think that is. Like, when did you think about comedy? At least talk us through that.
I've always had this love for anything that could make me laugh. I'm originally from Egypt. I was born there, but raised in the US. My father immigrated when I was a month old. And we grew up in Riverside, California. And right away, I was exposed to those 70s sitcoms, All in the Family and Chico and the Man and Sanford and Son, Happy Days,
Nice.
Three's Company. Remember those 70s and 80s sitcoms. Later on, you had Roseanne and Home Improvement and Everybody Loves Raymond, Seinfeld. But early on, those sitcoms that were pretty edgy for their time, all the Norman Lear, creations. That's what kind of got me hooked with comedy. And then I'd go to the movies every weekend. I would buy one ticket to a movie, and then I bounce around from theater to theater, try to bank 5-10 movies over the weekend. And so I was really fascinated with entertainment. But stand-up comedy, I really didn't get exposed to it until I was I want to say 9-10 years old. I think the first comedy album I ever listened to was Steve Martin. And it was the what was the name of it? When he did the King Tut thing? King Tut.
Yeah.
You get so funky Tut. I forgot the name of the album, but what's the one where he's wearing the arrow through his head?
Yeah.
It's black and white. It's when he was in his prime on Saturday Night Live. And I remember my friend's dad had a bunch of albums. We would sneak into his den and crack open his, all his records and albums and listen to classic rock and whatever he had at the time. But he had a lot of comedy albums. And the first one we broke out was Steve Martin. Excuse me. I remember kind of just laying on the floor of the den, with my eyes closed, just listening. And I was thinking to myself, wow, there's a person that's standing in front of an audience talking and making them laugh. That's powerful. That's like being like a magician. It was very intriguing to me that somebody could, storytell and garner laughs. And I thought that was such a powerful art form. And then I didn't think about it much after that, but then I started listening to a couple other comics. But it was when I watched Eddie Murphy's Delirious.
Oh, yeah.
When he's in the red leather suit, and he was 22 at the time, and he was hot on SNL as well. And he goes up in Washington, D.C. in front of 10,000 people. And, he made comedy cool and sexy and, really rock and roll for his time. And that's when I thought, oh, if he could do it, I could do it. And that's kind of like the old thing with stand-up comedians is you can watch a musician and say, oh, if they could do it, I could do it. It's a different game because you have to learn how to
play an instrument,
master an instrument. With comedy, you have to learn how to master that as well, but your instrument is your mind and your voice, and your physicalities if you are that kind of comic. But I thought to myself, oh, I've always been funny. I was kind of the class clown growing up. Watching sitcoms kind of made me understand comedic timing. And I thought, okay, I'm going to dive into this one day. But my goal was to be an actor. I was very intent on just being a respected actor. And I grew up watching these movies with Marlon Brando and Robert De Niro and Clint Eastwood and Morgan Freeman and Al Pacino, Denzel Washington, all these really cool, Christopher Walken. I always like those kind of actors, Jack Nicholson.
Wow.
And so I thought, oh, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to be like these guys. And I went to acting school. I studied. I worked, 2, 3, 4 different part-time jobs to stay alive. And I started working as an actor. Unfortunately, Hollywood, loves to embrace stereotypes. And my name is Ahmed Ahmed. It's a Muslim name. And, the industry wasn't looking to cast Ahmed Ahmed as the doctor, the lawyer, the friend. They were just looking to cast Ahmed Ahmed as a terrorist or a cab driver or the sleazy, shady Arab guy. And so I did that for about 7 years. I was in the movie Executive Decision where I played a terrorist. I was in Iron Man where I played a terrorist. I was on the show Roseanne where I played a terrorist. My resume, is all terrorist and cab driver roles. And then I just got kind of burned out, I guess. And I called my agent one day and I said, hey, can I audition for something else? And she was like, well, you got to change your name. And just out of pure, stubbornness, I just thought, nah, I'm going to keep my name. Just call me if there's any mainstream parts, that arise. And she stopped calling, the phone stopped ringing. And then I went through kind of a dark period where I wasn't working. I ran out of money. I went back to waiting tables. And that's when I found stand-up comedy, when I was working as a waiter, believe it or not. I always had it in the back of my mind to do it. I always had the love for stand-up comedy. I just didn't know how to do it. But when I was waiting tables, I would make, at the age of 24, I was making 60, 70,000 bucks a year in tips, just because I was making my customers laugh. And then one day, this woman came in and said, "You're really funny. You should be a comedian." And I had my sort of aha moment. And soon after, I started doing open mic nights, comedy competitions. Would drive to Fresno, for $50 and a burger or whatever it took. Eventually, I started running my own comedy nights. We did a really successful one in Hollywood on the Sunset Strip called Dublin's. We did it every Tuesday night, and it was packed out every Tuesday night. 250, 300 people would show up. And it was cool because it was right in between the Comedy Store and the Laugh Factory. So we were like the hub. So all the comics would do their sets at the legit comedy clubs, and they'd walk down the street to our place. And on any given night, we would have Dave Chappelle. We would have, at the time, Andrew Dice Clay, Eddie Griffin. The list goes on and on. Roseanne Barr rolled in there. We had, they're well known now, but before what they were known, we had Ken Jeong.
Wow.
Zach Galifianakis. Jon Favreau came up on stage one night. Vince Vaughn came up on stage one night. Leslie Jones. The list goes on and on. Every single big comic in the US was gracing our stage. And then we had guys at the time who were unknown, like Dane Cook, who to this day will credit our room as to where he got, well known as a comic. Sebastian Maniscalco, who was a waiter at the Four Seasons. And now he's been in Forbes magazine twice as one of the highest paid comics in the world. So that's kind of where I got my chops, not only as a comic, but as a producer and a talent booker. And I'm still doing it, to this day. So it's kind of never left me. I like wearing both hats. I like being on stage and being a performer. And I really enjoy the producing and talent booking aspect of it. My friend the other day, actually, he called me, he said, your new nickname is the Arranger. Because I tend to find myself arranging egos and personalities and artists. And I guess I just have a good knack for it when it comes to comics. I know how to talk to them. I just understand them because I'm one. So I just have this, I guess, sort of simpatico for comics. And typically if I pick up the phone and call them or text them, I'd say about 90% of them reply. So those are good, it's a good percentage for me. And the ones that don't, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Well, thank you for that story. And I'm curious. I want to talk about
Sorry, I didn't mean to have all this run on sentence.
No, that's I asked you the question. So as an interviewer, I always take responsibility for the answer if I ask the question. And it was actually really good. And I love that part about the waiter, and the reason why the waiter situation where when you were waiting and someone had said to you, you're a funny guy, you should do comedy. Would you say that many comedians who are successful had some situation where they might have been like, you frankly were at a rock bottom place? You tried acting for many years and you went, you did a job that you weren't destined to do. It wasn't like, hey, I'm excited to be a waiter. You just did it because it paid bills and you're good at it. Would you say that's a common trait of many successful comedians?
I feel like every successful comedian that has made it struggled and struggled to the point where they may have hit rock bottom. I know Adam Sandler was a bartender in New York. Tiffany Haddish, who's a good friend of mine, she was homeless. She used to sleep out of her car, live out of her car. Sebastian Maniscalco, like I said, he was a waiter. Yeah, I would say most successful comics hit rock bottom or struggled desperately for probably several years. And then, it's just really about, comedy is like, it's like shaping a diamond. You just got to keep putting pressure on the rock and, or the gem, whatever it is. And if the more pressure you put on it, the more consistent, the more disciplined you are, the better you're going to get. It's just kind of the laws of gravity, and laws of attraction. Also, the comics that are successful that I deal with these days, they always say, please, thank you, and excuse me. They're just kind people. They're not too full of themselves or too good for anybody. It's almost like the comics that I deal with that aren't successful or aren't funny typically are assholes and ungrateful and show no appreciation. Whereas Bill Burr came down to Huntington Beach last Friday.
Yep.
And, he's arguably one of the most famous comics in the world right now. And, he was kind enough to drive an hour to Huntington Beach and perform in front of 500 rowdy Orange County.
Yeah, it was funny. It's quite a show. Yeah.
So, but he's got thick skin and he's a pro and he knows how to handle it. And he did it with grace.
Nice. Okay. Makes a lot of sense. I have one more question about your past and I want to get into like the present with the business. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you had done this amazing project. I actually saw that doc. It was a while. It's funny because when I connected with you last week, I didn't connect 2 and 2 because it was a different time. I mean, it was like, I think 5-10 years ago, but tell us
10 years ago.
Yeah. How did that doc come about? What was the premise for people who don't know? Cause that's pretty cool. Like going to the Middle East with all these people.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, first of all, the doc is called, it's a documentary film called Just Like Us. It's available for free on YouTube. If you just type in Cross Cultural Productions, it's free to watch. It's out there. We've been on Netflix, Showtime, Stars. You know, we kind of went through the gamut of distribution platforms. And then, you know, at some point, you just got to kind of bring the rights back into your own backyard. And that's what we did. So now it's on YouTube for free.
Nice.
Cross Cultural Productions. You can check it out. Basically, I started going to the Middle East to do stand-up comedy for English-speaking audiences back in 2005. And once I realized that there is a audience for it there, right around that time, we were just about to launch our Axis of Evil comedy tour. The Axis of Evil comedy tour was the brainchild of Mitzi Shore, who owns the Comedy Store. She's passed away, God rest her soul, but she had this vision that Arabs and Muslims are going to need laughter. And she told me straight up, you're going to be the one to do it. And I was like, I just want to tell jokes. I'm not some like messenger, or like, you know, I'm not carrying any torch. And she's like, no, you're going to be the one to do it. She had this like, almost like a prophecy for me. And she was right. I went to the Middle East, started doing a couple underground shows in Dubai. And then I linked up with the producer there, who at the time was working with, at the time, Showtime Arabia. And I pitched them the Axis of Evil comedy tour as a tour. So we had gone to Dubai, Lebanon, Egypt, and Kuwait. Wow. I'm sorry, Dubai, Lebanon, Egypt, Jordan, and Kuwait as the Axis of Evil. And we sold 20,000 tickets. We did 27 sold out shows in 30 days. They filmed it and put it on Showtime Arabia. And like that overnight, we were like the Beatles. It was crazy. Wow. And then that's what kind of set the bar for Western stand-up, you know, contemporary stand-up comedy in that part of the world. A year later, we broke up as a group, but I continued to come back, and I started bringing, you know, white, Italian, Black, American comics, female American comics. So I took, nice. I had Omid Jalili from London, from the UK. I had Whitney Cummings, who's become really well known. I had Sebastian Maniscalco. Baz Jobrani, you know, came back with me. We had Tom Papa. We had Angelo Sarukis, Tommy Davidson, Maria Shahada. I feel like I'm leaving out a couple names, but once I knew that was the case, that you didn't have to be from the Middle East, that American comics were working, then I knew we were onto something big. So I documented it. My business partner at the time invested some money into hiring a little guerrilla, you know, 2-man camera crew. And we traveled, they followed me around Dubai, Lebanon, Egypt, Saudi Arabia. We shot 200 hours of footage. We cut it into a 72-minute documentary. And we premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. Yeah. Robert De Niro, Jane Rosenthal, New York City. They gave us a red carpet premiere. And then I took my film to 30 film festivals. We were, 30, was it 30? Almost 30 film festivals around the world. So they would show the movie, then I would do like a post, you know, director Q&A. And then a year later, we sold it to Lionsgate. And then it kind of bounced around. But that's kind of the backstory of how that happened. And since then, you know, so many comics have gone to the Middle East because they realized, oh, it's safe to go.
Yeah. Russell Peters talks about that. You should hear it. I don't know if you remember his Lebanon jokes. They're quite hilarious.
Yeah, I was with Russell in Lebanon.
Okay.
Yeah, Russell's one of my dear friends. He's one of the reasons he went to the Middle East was I had, you know, taken him over there. Actually, he took me there, but I put him in touch with the promoter that we had worked with.
Nice.
So he went on to do like Lebanon, Dubai. I think he's been to Saudi. He's been to Jordan a few times. But I was actually with Russell when we were in Lebanon. We went to some nightclub club called I forgot the name of it. It was like an old army bunker.
Yeah, he talks about that in his set. He talks about how it's really underground and stuff.
Like literally underground. And at like midnight, the roof opens up, but it's a bomb shelter basically that they turned into a nightclub.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, only in Lebanon, man.
Wow. Well,
beautiful country, by the way.
I've seen photos, and it's definitely on my bucket list. Actually, I'm curious. What was your favorite place in the Middle East to perform, and why?
I think as far as content is concerned, probably Lebanon. There weren't any restrictions. You can talk about religion. You could talk about the government. You could talk about the president. You could talk about literally anything. I remember all the other countries had restrictions. Like we went to Egypt, and the promoter was like, "Don't do any jokes about Mubarak." I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "If you do, it's the minimum 2 years in jail."
Whoa.
And I was like, "Okay, no Mubarak jokes." And then when he got overthrown, they called me up and they're like, "Do you have any Mubarak jokes?" I was fast. Saudi Arabia, like some of the Gulf countries, the oil-rich countries, Saudi, Dubai, Qatar, those places, they call them, the GCC, the Gulf. You can't touch religion. You can't touch the royal family. You can't touch the government, the military. There are a lot of restrictions.
Wow.
But Lebanon, they were like, say whatever the fuck you want, man.
That's funny, man. So let's talk about the economics of the business. As a promoter or as an event producer, how do you make money?
As a producer, or as a comic, or both? Because I do both.
No, as someone who puts on the events. Obviously, as a comic, you get paid to attend, right?
Yeah. Typically for me, the way I'm kind of scaling it out now is I have a partner. You met him, Jason Rogers.
Jason, great guy. Yeah.
From, American Me Comedy. We collaborated. We got tired of trying to get booked in places. The comedy scene is very saturated, as you probably know. It became a little unsaturated when the pandemic happened because a lot of comics fled Los Angeles. They went to Vegas, Florida, Austin, Texas for some reason. So the swamp drained and a lot of the critters left. So that left room, to kind of think outside of the box. Now the clubs were closed down as well. So we were kind of trying to figure out what to do. And that's how we pivoted into outdoor stand-up comedy shows. So Jason owns, all the lights and sound and setup. Typically we build a makeshift stage somewhere. We'll find a venue. And I have access to all the talent. So we put our brains together, and we're experimenting with a ticketing agency right now that we're about to announce soon. But right now and in the past, we would use like Eventbrite. So we would post a show on Eventbrite. Here's the link. Here's how much the tickets are. Here are the rules of engagement. And then people kind of, we give, the address like the day of the show. So it's kind of like a secret speakeasy, prohibition comedy, roaring 20s, if you will. And we pay the comics. It depends. Some comics make $50. Some of them make 500 on the smaller shows. Some of them on the bigger shows make anywhere from 500 to a few thousand, depending on who they are. And then after we pay the comics and any expenses, we split the rest.
Nice. Has the event model changed post-pandemic?
Oh, huge. Yeah. Everybody's pivoting into outdoor comedy, a lot of drive-up shows, like drive-in comedy, which I don't really like. And I don't think that's...
Is that the type of is that that type of the headphone, or you're like a drive-in theater kind of style? Like
well, they have the silent comedy shows where we wear the headphones, and then everybody. I just think that's weird. But they have actual shows where they have the comic on stage. Behind him is a big kind of like movie screen.
Wow.
And then people drive up in their cars, like a drive-in movie.
Okay.
And then they have a satellite that you just tune in to the radio in your car. It says, tune in to
Yeah,
97.3 or whatever.
yeah.
And then you can hear the show in your car. The problem is you can't, as a comic, you don't hear people laughing.
Mm.
So what they do is they flash their lights if they think you're funny. Sometimes they'll honk their horns. Some shows, they give people like these little clapper things, those little toy devices.
Yeah.
I don't feel like that's the future, but maybe I'm wrong. We certainly didn't do it that way. I think our model is a lot better and different. Keep it outside, keep it distanced. As long as you have proper lights and sound, you could really do stand-up comedy anywhere.
So in a way, and so we've featured many business types of industries in our show. And one thing I've seen prevalent is that the ones that are succeeding, like yourself, they saw opportunities. Obviously, pandemic is harsh. There's many people who have been died or have been unfortunately gotten COVID and gotten really sick, and the mental health ramifications we still don't know yet. But on the business side, there are people in industries like e-commerce or certain products that have been crushing it post-pandemic. And what I'm hearing from you is that, yes, outdoor events have always been there, but now because of the regulations, it's kind of the thing and you capitalize on it. Is that safe to say?
Yeah. The thing is a lot of, now it's kind of pivoting into live streaming as well.
Okay.
Which we're going to eventually harness. It's just taking a minute to try to figure out all the technology and logistics. Some people are doing it and they're doing it brilliantly. A lot of comics pivoted into doing Zoom comedy calls or comedy shows. So you're doing your show, and then there might be anywhere from 10 to 50 people in this like Brady Bunch.
It's like the NBA finals, when you see the fake heads in the stands.
Yeah. I did a couple of those. I didn't like them. I just didn't feel like, plus people don't unmute mute the call, so you can hear like dogs barking and babies crying and people in the background like playing music and cooking and shit like that. But the live stream, I think, will probably end up being a new platform. It seems to be working for some producers and promoters. We're going to try to just kind of stick to the live shows. We did capitalize on it. There was a need and a niche for it, and there was a void that needed to be filled, and we filled it. And so now we have our Venice comedy compound shows that we do in Venice Beach every Saturday. It's about 150 seats. Huntington Beach every Friday, which you were at, that's 300 paid seats, but then you have another 200 freebies that are outside.
That was hilarious. You heckled them so much. Oh my gosh. You and a lot of people. That was hilarious. Rightfully so. I mean, freeloading is freeloading.
I mean, it's probably our fault for not passing around like a donation, hat or some sort of thing like that. I think we'll do that next time. Hey guys, if you're going to watch the show for free, chip in $1 or something like that. Give the money to charity or however we do it. And then we have Las Vegas, which we're doing a monthly show at a place called The Space.
Okay.
In Las Vegas. That'll be more of a live stream thing we're going to try to focus on. So I'm just trying to get my head around all the different ways to monetize stand-up comedy right now. It might be another, who knows, 6 months to a year before comedy clubs in Los Angeles and California open back up to, 70% capacity, 100% capacity. But still, I feel like because of the pandemic and because people got a taste of what it's like to watch comedy outside, I don't know how many people are going to want to go back to indoor comedy shows. And if they do, they're still going to distance and all that stuff. I know in Florida and in Texas and Arizona and Vegas, they treated, not so much Vegas, but Arizona, Texas, and Florida, they were treating stand-up comedy like there was never a pandemic. People are walking around like shaking hands and kissing babies and hugging and all that stuff. And I'm all for that, but let's get everybody healthy and vaccinated and
Yeah.
Let's get over that hurdle first before we start doing all that other stuff. I mean, even I was at this club last night, and you know, I think it's in people's nature to want to, if they don't see you for a while, hey, what's up, man? And they want to shake your hand or give you a hug. And I've always been kind of standoffish anyway. I mean, unless we're great friends or you're my family member, I don't typically, or we're dating, I don't typically like to get too close or hug somebody that I don't know that well. I prefer the fist bump. I've always been a fist bump kind of guy.
Nice.
But we have hand sanitizer now, and people are being a little bit more septic and disinfectant with the way they approach life and people these days. I think the pandemic, as much as it sucks or sucked, and a lot of people got crushed by it financially, emotionally, spiritually, artistically, a lot of good, I think, came out of it. A lot of people wrote books. A lot of people learned how to cook. A lot of people, lost weight because they got into exercise heavily. A lot of people were writing in their journals and creating content and podcasts, and it kind of turned into a good thing for the people that took advantage of it. It's like the old saying, those most resistant to change are the first to fail.
Wow.
And so a lot of people were resistant, stayed at home, relied on the stimulus check, waiting for the pandemic to be over with. It's not going to be over anytime soon.
Yeah.
So we just have to kind of be flexible and pivot. It's an ebb and flow.
Well, I love your innovative thinking. I mean that because the entrepreneurs and business individuals that have crushed it during pandemic have the same trait as you, where it's like you're realistic, you see things for what it is, but instead of letting the environment get to you, you're like, how can I make the environment work for me? And that's why I really think the outdoor model and potentially live streaming, and I think it's pretty cool. I really do. I
appreciate it. It was difficult to get our head around it in the beginning. We had like 4 or 5 failed attempts. Venues didn't want to pay us, or didn't want to do a deal, or canceled on us last minute, or it was a weird and difficult time to kind of get our head around how to harness it. But I think we found the model now, and it seems to be working. So we're gonna ride that wave until something better comes up.
Nice. Well, as we end this, kind of get to the last part of the interview, I have one question about mentorship, and then we'll talk about some of your upcoming events for our audience to know.
Cool.
Was there a comedian who might have given you a chance or given you some words of wisdom that you still hold to this day? And it could be multiple comedians, it's fine, but is there someone, because you've interacted with so many comedians, legends from the past, current ones?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of anybody. I kind of just, I hate to, really, it was Mitzi Shore, the owner of the Comedy Store. She was really kind of my mentor. She always told me, not to listen to other people's thoughts or opinions. The audience will tell you if you're funny. Vince Vaughn, who's a good friend of mine, he's not a stand-up comic, but he's certainly a
funny as heck
guy.
Yeah.
He gave me some great advice. I remember he did a tour called the Wild West Comedy Show. It was myself, John Caparello, Brett Ernst, and Sebastian Maniscalco. It was in 2005. I think it's on HBO now, HBO Max maybe. Anyway, we did this tour around America, 30 cities and 30 nights, from Hollywood to the Heartland. Wow. It was called Vince Vaughn's Wild West Comedy Show. And we were going right through, the South and the Midwest, really like Bible beating red states, conservative, Republican. And, my name's Ahmed Ahmed. I'm an Egyptian Muslim. And he would always say, I want you to go up first. And I was always nervous to go up first. I was like, I don't know, we're right in the, heart of Alabama and, whatever state we are in. And I'm nervous. And he's like, he said something to the effect of like, don't let what you think your hindrances are get you down.
Oh.
He's like, Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a red nose, and everybody laughed at him. But Santa had him lead his sleigh. So I need you to be Rudolph and lead my sleigh.
I
And
love that analogy.
no, it was a cool analogy because I was like, oh, suddenly I have a red nose and I'm a deer. But when he said that, it was like, oh, okay. Because I think a lot of people will make an excuse and say, oh, well, my name's Ahmed Ahmed, or I have dark skin, or I have a Muslim name, or people always try to find an excuse to fail. And I used to do that a lot. I just didn't have enough courage and confidence and love for myself to just get up and own it. And as I've gotten older, I'm just owning it a little bit more. So he was definitely an influence. I remember Charles Fleischer. I don't know if you know who Charles Fleischer is. He was the voice of Roger Rabbit.
Oh, cool. I love that movie.
He was also in, he played one of the characters on the show Welcome Back, Kotter.
Okay.
Sitcom.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was like a character actor, really funny comedian, extremely brilliant guy, like outer space alien kind of brilliance.
Like Robin Williams kind of crazy, like can do characters well.
Well, they came up together.
Okay, that makes sense.
They were like head to head every night at the Comedy Store, and so they were friends too, I believe. In fact, I think Robin Williams beat him out for the show Mork and Mindy.
Okay.
He was up for the Nanu Nanu.
Yeah, character. I love that character.
But I remember doing a show with him one night, and I was on stage, and this was early on in my comedy career, and I was having a bad set, and about halfway through, I quit. I said, I'm done, good night. And I walked off stage, and he came up to me and he goes, why'd you do that? I said, I wasn't doing my job, and I don't know, I got nervous and I just wanted to pull the plug. He goes, never abandon your set and never blame the audience. And I thought, that's interesting. That's an interesting take, because oftentimes comics will say, oh, the audience sucked, or the audience this, the audience that. The audience came to watch a comedy show. It's up to you to entertain them and perform for them. And if you're not ready, willing, and able to do that, then stay home.
Well said.
Don't waste anybody's time. Don't waste your own time. Trying to think of anybody else. Nobody comes to mind off the top of my head, but watching comics rise and fall, that's kind of been my meter and my gauge, because you can learn from watching other people's mistakes and other people's successes. You wonder and realize, oh, well, that person is successful because they write jokes every day, they don't drink or do drugs, they have a pretty normal lifestyle outside of the comedy business, they're nice to people. You kind of just follow that model and that rule. You'll most likely be successful if you just, apply some of those things I mentioned.
Do you have a healthy lifestyle?
Sometimes.
That's cool.
I mean, I exercise, I eat relatively healthy. I think during the pandemic, much like a lot of people, I just kind of was like, oh, it's 12 noon, time to crack open a beer.
Nice,
I had a couple benders where I was just like day drinking, or there wasn't much to do, so I was just like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go with the flow. And
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I have a pretty healthy lifestyle.
Nice.
I meditate.
Nice.
I try to go to bed early. I'm not like one of those. Sometimes if my wheels are spinning, I'll stay up till 2-3 in the morning working, like writing stuff or promoting a show or whatever, but I try to go to bed early, get up early, eat a balanced meal, healthy. I don't eat a lot of junk.
Good.
I don't eat fast food. I'm not into like sweets and candy and stuff like that. Probably my biggest vice is Blanco tequila.
Okay. At least you have good taste.
I like to sip on some good Blanco tequila.
Yeah.
And then I try to just, minimum 3-4 days a week, just do some sort of physical activity, stretching, yoga, running, biking, lift some weights, go down to the beach, jump in the ocean, body surf, whatever it is, get some vitamin D. And yeah, I mean, I certainly have my meditation sessions that I like to dive into.
Tell us more
Because
about that. I'm actually curious. How'd you get into meditation and what do you do?
well, I was raised Muslim, so the way a Muslim prays, believe it or not, has a very meditative aspect to it. It's also very physical because the actual act of prayer is, they say it works out like 99 muscles in your body. It works out in your shoulders and your abs and your glutes and your hamstrings, and it stretches out your lower back, and it's very much like yoga. But once that's finished, I kind of do my salutations and all that, but I just kind of close my eyes and I start visualizing. And I really believe visualization is super important. When you want something in your life, you have to visualize it before you can attain it. And I think the harder and the more you focus on it, kind of asking the universe, placing your order with the universe. I'd like this, this, and this, and I'd like to have it done by this time. And there's different books and approaches and ways that people do it. I'm still, grasping it. And I think I have a long way to go, but I feel like meditation is a great tool, especially for artists. It also helps me get out of my way. It's easy for people to get in their head and let fear and loathing and pessimism and, worry and all the stuff that life is brainwashing us with every day. You have to kind of, actively scissor that out of your life. And I think meditation helps quite a bit for me.
Cool. Well, let's talk about your upcoming shows. This interview is going to be airing on our show next week, next Tuesday. And so I believe you got a cool lineup in HB and your Venice show. What would you like to share with the audience?
Yeah. Well, we have 3 shows going right now. The first one is in Venice Beach. It's called the Venice Comedy Compound. If you go on my Instagram, it's at Ahmed Comedy, AHMED Comedy. There's a link in the bio. It's venicecomedycompound.com. We have a fire lineup every weekend, every Saturday. You can get tickets on Eventbrite. Huntington Beach, it's at a place called Sea Legs at the beach. You can go to feverup.com, FEVER up.com. We just had Bill Burr. This Friday we have Jeff Ross. The next week is Tiffany Haddish, Jamie Kennedy, Adam Carolla, Brian Callen, Jim Jeffries just committed. And those are, bigger shows, 300 seats, outdoors, right on the ocean. And then we're doing Vegas once a month at a place called The Space. You can go to thespacelv.com. And that's more of like a cool, slick cabaret kind of venue. And we'll be doing more of live streaming there because it's a smaller venue. We'll still sell tickets for people to come in and sit to watch the show live, but we'll focus on more of the live stream. So yeah, Vegas once a month, Huntington Beach every Friday, Venice Beach every Saturday. That's kind of what we're doing for now.
Is there a dream city or a city that you have your eye on next near future? Just curious.
Well, I don't want to talk out of school, but I just got asked to host and book potentially this year's Dubai Comedy Festival.
Nice.
So it'll be nice to go back to Dubai and hopefully do that. Maybe even get a residency there, like once a month or once every 6 months or whatever it is. I have some plans to go back to Florida and Texas. Right now, like I said, the comedy scene is just starting to open back up, but I feel like just staying in California, specifically Los Angeles and like these Huntington Beach shows, I just want to kind of put my focus in that for now. And who knows where it takes us. So, I'm also an actor and a producer and I write, I have movie and TV show ideas. So that's kind of been an ongoing slow process and pitch, aspect. But, and that's kind of on the back burner because right now I feel like live stand-up comedy is overshadowing like movies and TV.
Without a doubt.
Especially now that people are going out. It's like for a whole year, people sat around and watched television, Netflix, you know, they binge watched every show they could. And now people are like, oh, I can go outside now. Okay, well, fuck Netflix. You know?
I think the mental health benefits too. I mean, speaking from experience, and I could talk to more of this offline, but it's helped me process things better. It's helped me just, I don't know, just embrace my weirdness, or, you know, that we all have. So I feel that more people are resonating with that. And I think post pandemic, with the ramifications of this unfortunate situation, I think more people are seeing comedy as, it's like a therapy in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad that we're not considered essential workers, because what we provide, I believe, is essential. And I can't tell you how many people leave our shows and they're like, thank you so much. I needed that. I was stuck in my house for a year. It's almost like releasing, you know, a valve on a pressure point. You know, all the hot steam is just being released, because, you know, let's not forget, a lot of people were battling depression and, you know, having substance abuse and getting divorced and breaking up. And, you know, it's like, how long are you going to be with the same people for so long? And
yeah,
how many shows are you going to watch? It's nice to get out and have some fresh air and some vitamin D and just a good clean laugh. And I think that the stand-up comedy, and I've seen it, it's funny, I'm 50 years old and I've been in the game for almost 30 years. So I've seen, well, now going on 4 different cycles. So I've seen comedy clubs rise, fall, rise again, fall again. And for me, I've seen the same with comics. I've seen comics rise and fall and then rise again, you know. And for sure, what's happening right now, this kind of prohibition, you know, outdoor Wild West comedy shit we're doing, I think we're a little bit ahead of our time, which is a good thing. Now it's just really kind of getting a stronghold on it, monetizing it, keeping the right relationships with comics and audience members, returning guests, teaming up with the right ticketing agencies and venues. It ends up being a lot of work, but I love it. You know, they're good problems to have.
yeah.
It could be worse.
It could be worse. Well, thank you again for doing this, and sincerely appreciate it. And yeah, so everyone, I hope you enjoyed this interview. Check out this interview. And yeah, this is Ash Kumra on Entrepreneur Nation on 88.9 FM, signing out.